Hello YouTube, good morning. It's Vincent Gaetano here, and I am going to be bringing you another part, basically, in this series where I basically detail the main points of Sinisterism as a philosophy of the left-hand path, and essentially um, explain each point almost like a bullet point. In each video is where I go in a little bit of detail with that, sometimes a lot of detail. The last video I did was on the concept of interpretation being very important to Sinisterism, but because inadvertently that's kind of a topic that we covered on freedom and totality of the left-hand path, that video, I think it was called something slightly different, but that's pretty much what it's called. And so I kind of, it wasn't that long. But today what we're going to be talking about is a very, very important part of the Sinister philosophy, and a very, very important part of what makes, I think, Sinisterism so different from pretty much every other left-hand path organization and path system. And what that is the irrelevance of theism. So, to be a Sinisterist does not mean being necessarily theistic or atheistic. Sinisterism is informed by the fact that the mind is extremely powerful, and it matters not whether one believes literally in the names and or forces he or she calls. When you invoke a spirit, name, demon, daemon, whatever you'd like to call it, it will come to you, whether in a psychological manner or whatever manner you think it's going to come. But if you are an atheist, you do not believe in outside forces, and you do a ritual to invoke, I don't know, whatever, let's just go real generic and say Lucifer or something like that, your brain will take the name, right, so Lucifer, it will take what you associate that with, so let's say pride, courage, rebelliousness, whatever that name happens to, evoke in your head, and that energy will literally raise up in yourself and through your body and through your psychology, thus creating change. And so that is powerful whether you believe literally in the force that you're calling or not, because whether you believe in it literally or not, the effect by invoking it is still the same. And that's why I've never really gone into detail about what my beliefs are, whether I'm theistic or non-theistic or anything like that, because I don't want to dictate to Sinisterists what to believe, because I understand that, it's an irrelevance to it. Being on the left-hand path does not mean necessarily believing in a god or not, or a deity or not. Even if the forces are not believed to be literal, the effect will be created, because I just will not dictate atheistic or theistic beliefs in my practice. So, let's go a little further on that. The concept of supernatural forces it's a very individual thing. So some people believe in the Christian God, they believe in Jesus, they believe in God, they believe in that whole thing that they were, told as they were, coming up into the world. Some people go, well, God probably exists, but maybe not everything in the Bible is true, and then some other people go, well, I think a God exists, like some type of creator, but I'm not particularly sure what it is. Some people don't even care what it is. Some people believe in ghosts, but not gods. Some people believe in spirits and not gods. People are very different in their beliefs. So even if someone is a believer in outside forces or supernatural forces, that still doesn't necessarily mean that they're theistic in the way that like a Christian or Muslim would be theistic. So, relating to the left-hand path, I'm sorry, my nose and mustache is itching me today. If you go in to perform a ritual, and that ritual is aimed at maybe getting over a fear of something, maybe you're afraid of going for a certain job, but you think that would be a good job for you, so you want to do a ritual to kind of expel that fear and needless worry out of your mind. Well, you can think, well, I'll pick a daemon or a spirit, obviously with the Sinister current, I want to keep it as adversarial as I possibly can, which we're going to cover that later as well. But you would pick a demon and then you invoke that force. And you have two kind of like receptors, right? If you're theistic and you believe that if you summon Abaddon, it's going to come to you literally, then you are kind of calling out into the like abyss, so to speak, and trying to invoke that force to come to you. So you would pay attention to the feelings you felt when you were doing the ritual. You would pay attention to any type of sensations that you felt. You would pay attention to the atmosphere. You would pay attention to how you internally felt, what images or messages or ideas, concepts come into your head that seem like instantly put there. You would pay attention to your physiology and your psychology and your surroundings to try to gauge whether that being came to you. Now, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that, and I would recommend everyone at least try to do a real summoning like that. Even if you're an atheist, just try it. But evocation, while I do have some experience with it, is much more difficult when you really think about it. Because if a theistic ritual work, let's just say, would be more of a evocation because you're trying to bring it, not necessarily see it, but feel its presence in some way, get an idea that it descended upon you, then an atheistic ritual would be that, except now you're reaching into the abyss of your own brain. So instead of looking out into the abyss of supernatural forces and like the ether somewhere, right, which is not, it's not solid, it's abstract. When you do a ritual and it's corresponding with your brain, well, you have everything you need right there. So if you wanted to summon Lucifer in all his glory in your head, you would do that and the effect would be powerful. And I've done that as well because I was a strict, just atheist for years, and I will tell you that type of ritual practice is made no less powerful just by being an atheist. Some other people may disagree with that. That is fine. I'm not, like I said, I'm not 100% an atheist anymore, but I can tell you that I have no problem with people who are atheists, and they will be no less powerful on the left-hand path just because they don't believe in a creator or a god or some sort of supernatural force. It's not necessary. Now, another thing that kind of gets difficult when it comes to theism and how Sinisterism, I really want to bring a Irrelevance of Theism to the table, is that everyone has a different idea of those things anyway. So if you ask someone, what does Satan mean to you? It's complicated in my opinion, but I would definitely be able to give a good solid, paragraph, here's what Satan means to me. You ask someone else, they would say something completely different. Even if they were a Satanist or a Sinisterist or a Luciferian or whatever, they're not going to have the same opinion. It just doesn't work that way. And so, what Irrelevance of Theism does, not only on a level to serve the individual and make them completely free from any dogma where they can explore any ideas that they like, but it also frees you from that, like I said, that locked interpretation. So we're coming back to interpretation again. What Satan means to you, you invoke. What Satan means to you, Satan is. Now, of course, if you said Satan was a pink unicorn or something, I'd be like, well, okay, that really has nothing to do with anything. But you see what I'm saying? The way that you interpret that history, that mythology, maybe you don't even think it's mythology. Maybe you think it's mythology that you can invoke in the real world through your own thoughts. Maybe you think that it's a force that you yourself create. It's not something that could easily be quantifiable or measured or something like that, which is why even experiences that I've had where I felt presences and stuff like that, you always have to doubt everything. That doesn't mean you never believe something that happens, you just automatically doubt it, but put things to the test. Because if you're a Sinisterist, you know that the world is vast and wide, and we live in the abyss. And remember, in Sinisterism, you are the keys and you are the gate to that abyss. So, exploring all the different concepts and pieces of the puzzle is really a huge part of Sinisterism as being like the ultimate left-hand path philosophy, right? Because it's meant to just be this open. You open everything to you, and it's all there for you to discard or take. So although the irrelevance of theism has a big effect on rituals, obviously ritual practice, how someone who summons a daemon literally is going to have a much different idea, a much different concept for their rituals than someone who invokes a force from their subconscious. It also has a very big effect on your actual lifestyle and belief system. So someone who believes in a god doesn't necessarily believe that God is like a wrathful kind of God. So the Christian God, obviously he's unconditional, but he's not, obviously, because if you live a life that he doesn't approve of, you're going to go to hell, and it's this whole thing, right? Whereas if you are a Sinisterist, you can go, well, I felt adversarial forces before, right? And I commune with those forces, but they don't tell me what to do, right? There's no book on Satanism that says, like, Satan tells you, to do this, or to not eat meat on Saturdays, or some, shit like that. Nothing having to do with the left-hand path, whether it's dark paganism, whether it's Luciferianism, Sinisterism. Never does it have anything to do with dictating a belief to people and saying, you need to do this because this is what this book says. And the cool thing about being a Sinisterist, the wonderful, empowering thing about being a Sinisterist, is that your views on that are your own. So if you do find, you stumble across in your life a reason to believe in a supernatural force, you have a reason to believe in that, right? You are not getting dictated any type of weird rules that have nothing to do with your life, that don't correspond with you. You're not being forced to believe in something that you've never experienced or that you have no reason to believe. You only believe things that you've experienced firsthand. You only believe in things that you have a pretty good reason to believe in, and it really doesn't matter what other people think or feel or anything like that. And again, that's why the whole interpretation crossed with the irrelevance of theism creates a very empowering piece of Sinisterism, because you are looking at things the way that you look at them. Being subjective is a big part of Sinisterism. Looking at things the way that you want to look at them. Doing your research and having a reason why you think the things you do, but being strong in your beliefs and not kind of being wishy-washy. So ritual work will be much more open when you are doing rituals for your own purpose and for your own goal. You don't, like I said, even if you do believe in some sort of power, you're not worshipping that power. You're not necessarily, and even if you are worshipping it, it's not worship and subjugation like it would be to Allah or Jehovah or something like that. It affects philosophy, because you don't feel like you're gonna be, forced to answer to some being once you die. And like I said, even if you do believe in an afterlife, the Sinisterist can believe in any version of that seems to make sense to them, seems to correspond with them. Because, everyone believes something for a reason. Nobody just thinks something because they do. Even if you believed something because you grew up with it, you believe something because you grew up with it, there's a reason. So, that's that. Upon the path of Sinisterism, in the Sinister current, there is no need to be atheistic, theistic. Maybe you're both, maybe you're half, maybe you don't know, maybe you don't care. But that is up to you to decide because you are a Sinisterist. And you are the key to your gate. And the gate's an abyss, and so there's a lot to feel, there's a lot to find out, and there's a lot to pontificate on. So, I will see you guys next time. Hail Sinister Arcana, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you.